Welcome back to the 2023 World Cup here in Washington, D.C. Wow, I did that out of order this time. You'd think it 2023 IWAS Wheelchair Fencing World Cup in Washington, D.C. I am here again joined with two All-Stars. We have Lauren, Paralympian. We also have Michael. You've got like a whole background in both able-body fencing and wheelchair fencing. So I am excited for this upcoming final. I mean, Lauren, how do you see this playing out, or what do you think might happen?
As I said before, I'm not a gambling person, but I'm really excited to see the bout between Giovanni of Brazil and then Dimitri of Great Britain. Giovanni, he is a seasoned pro, and Dimitri, in the last couple of years, he's been making consistent appearances in the medal rounds, and it'll be a great bout between those two.
Yeah, no, for several years now, Dimitri has been ranked world #1 in wheelchair fencing, both the Category B Epee and Category B foil. He also won a team silver, team bronze, and 2 individual bronze medals for Great Britain in the Tokyo Paralympics. So there's a lot of Paralympic power up there right now. Michael, how do you see both of these kind of semifinals playing out?
Well, I am a gambling man, and I wouldn't bet on either one of these. So in our first bout, we have Giovanni and Dimitri. Dimitri is ranked #1 in World Cup points right now coming into this tournament. Giovanni is ranked #6. But, you know, when you get to the top standings like that, the points don't really matter. You know, anything can happen when you get to the top 10, top 12. So that's going to be a tough bout. 2 strong, fast fencers. And then the second bout is going to be a little tough one. It's 2 teammates, 2 guys from the French team, Verdun and Valet. So it could go either way. It could be a very good, strong bout, 2 teammates battling out for, you know, team country pride, or it could be 2 fencers who are, you know, who know each other so well that it's going to take time to figure out and the distance, figuring out the timing and the distance and figuring out the strategy, because they all know each other so well. So time will tell.
Yeah, you're talking about strategy. Talk to me a little more about the strategy that goes into training for something that's so high level. I mean, as a Paralympian yourself, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure. How do you really focus and hone in on the task at hand?
Focus is everything in the sport of fencing, and I think right now this is the first tournament of the 2024 qualification. This is the first tournament for points to qualify for Paris in just 1 year. So these athletes have a lot on their plate, a lot on their mind when they're coming into this first tournament of the qualification cycle. But to really get prepared for these medal rounds, these athletes have stamina, they have strength, and they have mental toughness.
And that, by the way, takes years to hone in on. A mental resilience, a mental toughness. I mean, you don't really see that come out always naturally. It's more of a honing in, a maturity factor, and also really great coaching. So, Michael, talk to me also about your history with para-fencing and your history with wheelchair fencing, because I think it would be really helpful for those at home that have never seen a wheelchair fencing program.
Well, I got into it because some local fencers came up to me, some local wheelchair fencers came up to me at my club and wanted to train with me a little bit. I hadn't really done much with it before. Wheelchair fencing was kind of in its infancy. So it was new to me. It was a new sport. So I had to learn on the fly. But it was interesting. I adapted my able-bodied style to fit the wheelchair style. Sometimes I'd sit in the chair and give the lessons. Sometimes I'd stand and give the lessons. And I'd move around and they'd have to hit me. It was very, difficult. I changed where the target is. So I really worked on point control. And then outside the club, they had to work on the physical aspect themselves. Because it's really 2 parts to wheelchair fencing. As it is with able-bodied, but I think it's even more so separated in wheelchair fencing. The point control, because of their either disability or abilities. Some of the athletes have spine issues or nerve damage issues, so it's very difficult for them to have the dexterity in the fingers to control just the tip. And the physical aspect, you have to have strong core. You have to do weights and repetitions and really build yourself and make yourself, not just a fencer but a strong athlete.
Yeah, that's absolutely true across the board. That's called muscle memory, and you can do that also mentally, right? Like how we're training our muscles, we also train our brain. I think this is going to be a pretty fun semifinal. You have Brazil and the Team GB. Dimitri, we hear about him a lot, but this is a Brazilian, local legend. And unfortunately, when it came time for the Rio Paralympics, wasn't able to participate, and that's a bummer. I imagine, your home country, time to shine. And so eye on the prize right now. He's 39, looking to Paris 2024. And he won gold medal in both 2012 and 2016, but that was in the individual epee. So I'm excited to see how this might play out, especially, too, how rowdy the crowd has gotten all day.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. The crowd plays a big part. You play off, and this is in any sport, you play off emotion. You ride the wave of emotion. And I've seen crowds carry fencers through bouts. This is going to be a really good semifinal. All these fencers who are in the semifinals of all the weapons are pretty much assured they're going to be going to Paris for the 2023. So what they're doing now is kind of jockeying for position of how they're going to be seated going in. You want to go in seated as high as possible. You want as easy a path as you can possibly get once you make it there. So that's what these guys are really fighting for. They're just gathering as many points as they can to be the highest seed they can possibly be.
And in 2022, Dimitri was ranked number 1. And then the Brazilian All-Star was at number 6. So, they're in the top 10. We know that they're going to likely, if not definitely, make an appearance with the eye on the prize on Paris 2024. But I think it's interesting right now. I'd love to see an underdog story. I think this has been sort of a lot of we knew they were going to be in. But I want to see someone go from 6-1 or 8-1 or something of the sort.
I also know the last time these guys fenced was in July in Warsaw. And I believe Dimitri won that bout 15-4. So I know Giovanni's going to want to get a few more touches than that. Maybe get a little revenge, a little comeback, prove that he deserves to be there and beyond. So I think both these bouts are going to be really good fights.
So, Lauren, as a para fencer and as a wheelchair fencer yourself, retired, we're going to pull you out of retirement. I feel it. I can feel it. What happens if someone gets a touch and you lose, right? Do you go the Ted Lasso route and have, think like a goldfish, forget immediately what just happened? Or do you use that, instead of forgetting about it, do you use that sort of as data? Hey, I'm going to build off of this.
In competition, if I lost, I just kind of took it and moved on. Forget about it. I didn't allow myself to wallow in the fact. But when I'm in practice and training with the coach, I would take that loss and really analyze with them what I did wrong, what I did right, and how I could adjust in the future. So it's really, as a fencer, you need to know what to do in the moment and what to do at practice.
I love that. That translates into life also, right? Like, how am I going to adapt? How am I going to change? This is worth noting. We have so many volunteers here that are working this 2023 IWAS Wheelchair Fencing World Cup. We also have tons of officials, the armory, you name it. We have medical, the whole gamut of human beings that are really hands-on for this week, and to ensure that all of our fencers get a Paralympic standard in everything we do, but also that they have a safe, fun experience. So we want to give a shout out to all of those that are working the event.
I will say, as a retired athlete, I would just came to World Cups just to fence and have fun. And I kind of took it for granted, all the work that happened behind the scenes. And now that I'm on the opposite side of the piece, I'm like, wow, I really did not know what was happening. I didn't know what caliber of effort came into hosting a World Cup.
I think it's certainly worth it. As the host, nation, I think it's been certainly worth it.
It's probably not too late for you and I to thank all the people who helped at the tournament that we were both in. Maybe it is.
Amazing. So we have 26 countries that are represented here today and this entire week. We are now, one more day out. Tomorrow is going to be the last day of competition. But it has been very incredible to see the different delegations, the different languages in the lobby, the whole gamut. We were talking about this before, and you mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, was that the wheelchair is an extension of the equipment. It really levels the playing field, the playing piste, if you want to say it. And just because, right now this athlete is using a wheelchair as their equipment, they may not use it 24/7, and that's really important to note, especially for kids at home that might be thinking well, I'm not in a wheelchair 24/7, or I don't use it every single day, to know that actually when it comes to IWAS and wheelchair fencing, this is how it's utilized.
Yeah, and to speaking on that personally, I walk around every day. I walk with a limp. I have cerebral palsy, and since I was able to walk as a kid, I didn't know I qualified for this sport. Didn't know my disability would class me into this sport. So I think that's the whole thing about the Paralympic movement, is that it's great for all disabilities, great for all abilities, and you just have to ask questions to know if you qualify to be in this sport.
Talk to me about the classification, because there is a difference. There's the A and B. Those are happening during this event, but what's the difference in classification?
Yeah. So right now we're going to be watching men's category B. B classification means they have not a lot of control over their core muscles. These are going to be your athletes with spinal cord injuries, those who are paraplegics. And then for your category A fencers, those are the fencers that have full control of their core muscles. These are going to be your athletes who are amputees, those with limb differences, those with cerebral palsy. And these are the athletes in A that are mostly can walk in and out of their chairs.
And that's really important to clarify, right? Because if you don't know, and we're talking about this, awareness is everything. So if you're sitting at home right now or you want to get involved, go to the IWAS website. They can connect you with whomever around the world. We firmly believe to our core that every kid in every corner of the world should have an opportunity to wheelchair fence.
Yeah.
So
what's amazing about the classifications also is that there's such a wide difference in the B categories of what their disabilities are and how physically able they are. And sometimes it's a real fine line between A and B, and they'll re-challenge. Any team can re-challenge an athlete from another team to say, hey, we think he's an A. He shouldn't be fencing with the Bs because he's cleaning up everybody. He moves real well. And then that means he has to go and get reclassified again. Mm-hmm. Now, that happens almost every tournament.
Yeah, all the time, I imagine. Yeah, it's a fluid kind of process, and I'm sure ever changing. But we are about to get started, locking everyone in place. This is our men's foil category B semifinal.
We said this before, a lot of the names are going to be familiar to anybody out there who's been with us this whole weekend. Yesterday, Dimitri won the men's Epee event, and Giovanni was third. So there's a real good chance that may happen again today, or one of these guys may be fencing for the gold and the other will take third. It's going to be silly to say, but one man loses, one man wins, one's going to advance, the other takes third. So let's see what happens. Off target light.
In the sport of foil, the athletes are really going to make sure that they're hitting on target. And when we say, what do we mean by on target? We mean that they're going to be hitting that silver piece of clothing they're wearing called the lame. That's where if an athlete goes ahead and touches them at that part, their light's going to go, just like it just did for Dimitri on the right.
Looks like Dimitri started early. Did he raise? Looks like he's talking to the assessor, so I'm assuming he raised up, which is against the rules of wheelchair fencing. You're not allowed to lift up out of the seat because it gives you a much bigger advantage. It gives you more distance to cover. So it looks like Dimitri is trying to get a definition of the rule.
We have a really great infographic that describes how the wheelchairs are set up, and we'll get that up on the screen in a second. It also describes the different weapons that we use. Foil in this case, foil is a light weapon derived from the court sword. It also talks about, the torso being that target area specifically in this wheelchair fencing and specifically for this. And then the next infographic really shows how they end up having everyone clamped in, ready to go in their frames. But we are back to the action in the men's foil Category B semifinal.
Amanda, what has been your favorite thing this weekend so far?
Oh, my favorite thing. I would say seeing 26 countries come together, and also, you know, the competitive factor on the piste is palpable. Like, you can feel that energy, but then when they come off, it's like, we're all friends here, we got your back, and I love that. I love that camaraderie.
It looks like both these fencers are showing amazing patience looking for the opening. They're trying to create their distance. They're trying to create the opening. They want to make sure that they have the balance to take advantage of it when it's there.
And looks like we're also starting the other semifinal bout between two Frenchmen. We have Max Vellet and Laurent Baudon, both from France. So it's safe to say that France will have a chance to go ahead and vie for that gold medal then.
Yeah, I think it won't be exactly a surprise here. So we're going to be switching back and forth, so thank you for being patient with us. Both bouts going on at the same time.
So currently we're looking at the French style, which seems to be very second intention, drawing out the opponent, trying to make a pair repost. They both seem to be very agile, very able, their arms look fine. They can flick. They have control over the blade. And we have our first video replay from, we can call it the French bout. Over on the other bout, it looks like Giovanni from Brazil is up 3-1 against Dimitri.
That was a beautiful touch.
Oh, and now it's 2-3. A great pair of reposts.
You know, Giovanni lost control of his legs after being shot in 2004. In 2008, he took up wheelchair fencing, and in 2014 was named the top Paralympic Performer of the Year at the 2014 Brazilian Paralympic Awards.
A great honor for him.
Huge. Absolutely massive.
He has done massive he's done so much for the sport of wheelchair fencing in Brazil. Whenever I went to a tournament in Brazil, everyone treated him like a hometown hero, and it was contagious.
You know, a lot of these athletes start off using fencing as a rehabilitation. Like you said that Giovanni was shot. I know there are other accidents and things that happen. We've got a lot of people from Wounded Warrior Project that we get in the U.S. here. And they start off at a rehab center. They need something to get their muscles back again and firing again and strong again. So they pick up, they either may not want the regular treatment, so they pick up something, a sport they've never done before. And a lot of times it's fencing, and they stay with it because it's just such a great sport.
Mm-hmm. So we're back to the side-by-side action, the France versus France semifinal, the men's foil Category B.
And again, just as we predicted, both those fencers know each other so well, so it's going to be back and forth. There hasn't been any leads by more than one touch since we started here. And currently it's tied at 3-3. On the other side, Dimitri is up 7-4. He's been able to make a few touch runs.
Oh, that was a beautiful touch by Giovanni going for a flick.
Nice flick to the flank. So it looks like Dimitri's using a lot of attack and then remise. Remise is he's trying to hit while he's still out there before he So foil is a right-of-way weapon. If you make an attack and you are unsuccessful, if you're parried or you miss, the other person has right-of-way, then you've got to go automatically back on defense. What Dimitri seems to be doing is he's making his attack, and when he's unsuccessful, he's not immediately going back on defense. He's trying 1 or 2 more times to try to hit before Giovanni comes at him with his right-of-way attack.
And now they're going to break for 1 minute for the break at 8. Now we're back to the French bout, 6-3 for Mr. Villet.
And again, another beautiful, looks like a circle 6 parry, flick to the back, to the shoulder.
The anticipation in this room right now is very palpable.
You know, the side-by-side semifinal action, even though for us it might be a little tricky, I think it's fun for everyone who is watching these.
You know, flick has got to be very difficult to do in wheelchair fencing. It's hard enough to do in able-bodied fencing, but you can set up the distance. You can push and go slow and move down the strip and take your time, and you know, really go slow and meticulous with the right-of-way. You don't have that here. You're trying to get your opponent before he pulls all the way backwards. The distance is difficult to hit straight on, never mind a flick. And Villet's made a few very nice flick actions. And by the way, a flick is when you actually whip the blade in so it bends and the tip depresses on the lame. And we're at the 8th break in the French bout. We're going to go back and check out the Kutia-Guisson bout.
Perfect timing.
Finish up their minute break.
6-8, it's anyone's game.
Yeah, both these bouts have been really close. There's no blowouts. Nobody's just taking total control of the bout and running away with it. They both seem to be switching strategies, switching styles, changing up when they need to. Yep, there seems to be a problem with Mr. Kutia's weapon. So what happened was they were hitting the blades and the white light went off, which usually means there's a broken wire in there or something. So he's changing it out. The referee has to test again. And he's going to test the valid target area. And we seem to be good to go. Back on the French bout. We're coming off a minute break. Score is 8-3 for Mr. Villet. And that was a beautiful parry post. He seems to be in control of this bout. 9-3.
Oh, that was a good parry for a repost.
And all these DE bouts are to 15 touches.
Only 4 seconds are off this bout so far.
Yeah, being in the wheelchair and having the distance so close and not being able to move and break it as easily as able-bodied really speeds up these bouts.
So, Lauren, talk to me about the distance between wheelchairs, because it's not necessarily plug and play. How does that work?
So the distance in the wheelchair fencing is going to be set to the fencer with the shortest arm length to their height. They're going to make sure that fencer with the shortest arm length can reach the other one. For the weapon of foil, it's going to be towards the tip of the blade is going to go to the inside of the elbow. And then an epee is going to be to the tip is on the outside of the elbow. Even though there's a couple centimeters between those two spots, that really makes a difference for both of these weapons.
And Maxime really seems to have this bout under control. He's one touch away from a spot in the gold medal bout.
Villet, by the way, is a chief physician at the Center for Resources, Expertise, and Sporting Performance in his home nation in France. And he's also married to Delphine Bernard, by the way, who is a Paralympian herself.
Yes, and they have an adorable little girl.
And that's a lot of Paralympic power.
And he just won his bout.
There you go.
And he's got his spot in the gold medal bout.
Chief physician is in chief position for the final bout.
Is parry post, Mr. Kutia?
Yeah, I'm here all day.
Oh, another parry
Very
post.
nice attack. Very nice, clean touch.
And Mr. Kuja is one touch away from his spot to face Mr. Valet in the gold medal bout. And there's the touch. Beautiful remise.
Well done.
You know, I would say that was almost a coupe. I haven't seen a coupe in a long time, but that looked almost what that was.
It's going to be Great Britain versus France in the finals.
And all you people online can burn me for saying it was a coupe, and it's probably not. I can take it.
Michael, what has been your favorite thing so far this weekend?
You know, again, look, I'm a saber fencer at heart. Who are we kidding? I love the saber. I love the speed. I love the athleticism. I love the strategy. I love everything about, you know, a weapon where you don't have to press a button. But, you know, we've talked about so many different aspects of it. We've talked about the camaraderie. We've talked about the athleticism. We've talked about, you know, country helping country. Nobody's, you know, there's no animosity in a sporting event. You know, I like the fact that everybody is here for one thing. You know, there's no politics involved. There's no, you know, nothing, no aggression, no anything. We're just here to fence, do the thing that we all love to do. We're here to help support it. You know, I mean, you can't beat that.
I agree.
It is really fun to see all and to hear all the different languages, different anthems, you name it. I mean, I feel really like grateful to be here with 26 participating nations at the 2023 IWAS Wheelchair Fencing World Cup in Washington. How's that for alliteration? We need one more W, don't we?
That was a little tough one.
They're setting up our finals momentarily, actually. So
you can look over our shoulder there, and you can see that what we're talking about when you talk about getting the athletes into the frames. And I think we have Epee coming up next, correct?
Yes, we do. We have women's A category, women's category A FA.
Yep, both those semifinals, right?
Everybody
Yes.
seems to have their verbal mountains to climb here today.
We are going to take a bit of a break, but we will be back on one more. So many B's back on for more fun from the 2023 IWAS Wheelchair Fencing World Cup in Washington, D.C. Welcome back to the 2023 IWAS Wheelchair Fencing World Cup from Washington, D.C. We are now here in the women's Epee A semifinals, Category B, and we're going side by side. We're doing dual action tonight. It's going to be a fun one, Lauren. I'm excited for these. How do you see it playing out?
I'm really excited to see this playing out. We have two relatively newcomers in these semifinals. We have Vide from France. We have Rodriguez from Spain. From my knowledge, I believe these women are rather new to this circuit, and I'm just excited to see new fencers in the sport and new fencers taking their claim in semifinals for a chance in the final bout to get gold at this event. And then in this event right now, it's going to be it's women's category A, Epee. So in A, as we remember from all of the broadcasts so far this weekend, A are those are going to be the athletes with higher control of their core muscles. These are the athletes that can walk every day. These are the athletes that are amputees, those with cerebral palsy. And this is also the weapon of Epee. In Epee, the target area is going to be waist up, and that is going to include the hand, the mask, and etc. And one thing that you notice is that these athletes are wearing skirts, and these are just giant lames that cover an athlete's legs to make sure that we're not going to hit the target, hit any area that isn't target.
It's not quite used as a regular lame. A regular lame, like in saber and foil, when you hit that, the light goes on. This is to prevent the light from going on. This grounds out. This should be a really good bout. And like you said, Rodriguez is kind of a newcomer. She's ranked 11th in the world. And in the last bout, she knocked out the #1 fencer in the world, Amarilla Veres from Hungary, 15-13. So she actually really earned her way in this semifinal bout. And it's obvious she wants to make the most of it. The way she's moving, I mean, she's really pushing those attacks hard, coming back deep on the defense. She's using as much motion as she's capable of using, and it's effective. Meanwhile, Kwan is ranked #5 in the world. And just launched a beautiful, fast, accelerated attack to the arm.
You know, we were talking about a lot of sort of new faces. Judith is relatively new. She's made an impression on and off the piste. And she made her international debut in Brazil in 2022 and took Epee gold. So she is a newcomer, but it doesn't look like it.
No, not the way she made that parry post right there, it doesn't. Her hand is just so fast and so strong. And it looks like the referee is checking with the assesseur whether she lifted up or not. And I guess the verdict is not. So we're just going to progress with the bout. Again, it amazes me how much they can actually go forward and go backward. You know, for those of you out there who haven't seen wheelchair fencing, this is your first time, your preconception must be that, oh, they can't move very far, just sitting there with your hand back and forth. There's no body movement whatsoever. And I'm hoping that you're noticing that that is very much not the case. They're moving their bodies way more than able-bodied. They're just not allowed to move their legs. As you can see by the straps covering their foot and their thighs, it keeps them in place and keeps them from falling out of the chair and hurting themselves. Double touch and an epee, double touch. Both fencers score and receive a touch.
Nice
Wow.
clean attack from the right.
I mean, the speed that she gets off the line, I mean, as soon as the referee says fence, is incredible. They're trying to straighten the blade of Ms. Kwan.
I swear, I always held my breath when Coach did that for me. I didn't want him to break my blade, especially in the semifinal.
Wow. They're both so athletic. Ms. Kwan got in so deep with that attack that Rodriguez wasn't able to pick it up until it was a little too late. Now you see that she's covering the chair as well as her legs, because in wheelchair epee fencing, if the chair gets hit, that touch will stand. It becomes part of the target area. So with that skirt, we're trying to cover all the legs, anything that you don't want as target area. I know some people would maybe want to cover head and arms, but that's not allowed. Double touch, both ladies awarded a touch. Now again, an epee is the one weapon that we don't take a break at 8. Wow, nice touch. Attack with opposition.
Both athletes are so fast. One is lunging while the other one's retreating, trying to get out of the way of the attack. It's a constant back and forth.
And again, I'm just trying to watch for the strategy. So Ms. Rodriguez brought out Ms. Kwan just like that. She's sort of leaning backwards, hoping she's going to try and go for a fast attack. And she was able to just counterattack right over the top. Oh, beautiful attack. And it looks like we're waiting on the second semifinal bout till this one finishes, so we can watch both. I would be in a lot of pain if I tried any of this. I mean, the speed is almost unfair how fast they are.
Beautiful.
And you
Really
can see that
direct
they're
attack.
putting the pressure on, they're putting the pressure on, they're taking it off, drawing the person in, taking the blade, pushing. Oof.
Kwan
Again.
is so ready with her attacks, just going forward and making sure she's hitting directly and fast. And so far, I've been seeing her attack hit the same place. She's very accurate.
Yeah, I know, she keeps hitting that arm. Oh, see again, Ms. Rodriguez drew her out and then just counterattacked right into it.
Rodriguez is proving that she earned her spot. She's still fighting.
Oh yeah, I don't think Ms. Kwan was ready for that attack. But that's that's the game. You know, surprise attacks. If they're ready for it, they're not usually successful. Oh, minute break. Time ran out. You can see the triple zeros back there, and we're going to have a minute break. So this is the last day of individual competition here at the Wheelchair World Cup. Tomorrow starts team tournaments. Those are always exciting. Those are always fun.
Fencing is a rare sport where most of it's done individually, but we do offer that team event. And the team event, it's just so much fun to compete with your fellow teammates and trying to all rally together to get 45 touches to win And I always thought when I did team events with my teammates, it was a moment for us to all bond and trust each other.
You know, team events were kind of my favorite events because you cheer each other on, and you may not be from the same club, you know, but as long as you're from the same country, you know, USA is fencing somebody. Like you said, it's a great bonding experience. You go out, you have dinner, you talk about strategy. Generally, you know what your ranking is, and you'll know who you're going to be fencing the next day, and you go over the strategy and you go over the lineup, who's gonna be anchor, who's gonna start, and it really depends on styles. It may not even be who's the better fencer that day, but who do you think your opponent's going to put in as the anchor, and whose style works best against that?
13-9 going into the second period of the semifinal match. It's Korea versus Spain.
You know, this is still a pretty close bout. 13-9. It's 4 touches. You know, anybody can get 4 touches, depending on what the coach has told them. You know, maybe the coach has seen something. Maybe the coach can see that, you know, one fencer is not attacking as strong or going as deep, or prefers to hit in one specific area. So we'll see if there's going to be any changes made by either fencer. I think the change I see is that both are trying to set up earlier for touches. They're doing more preparation before the actual commitment of the attacks. Oh, beautiful attack from the left. You know, I love those timing actions. I love, you know, when one person hesitates, when one person makes somebody else hesitate and then launches a strong attack like that. I think those are my favorite touches. Beautiful, and she is now in the gold medal bout. Excellent. So fast, so strong. And Miss Rodriguez had a great day herself, so.
And it looks like we're about to start the next semifinal bout. And this is a BA against Ms. Vide from France and Ms. Friedrich from Polish. Pulling up some stats on Ms. Friedrich, it looks like she started practicing fencing when she was 9 years old, and she has been a member of the Polish team for about 13 years now. She went to the London Games, Rio Games, and also the Tokyo Games, a 3-time Paralympian.
Vide is currently seated 7th in world points coming into this tournament, and Ms. Friedrich is 3rd. So if you're looking at the list, we've had a 3rd, we've had 5th, we've had 7th, and we've had 11th. So it's a big spread. It's not the 1, 2, 3, 4 that you might imagine.
And she's up against Marta, who won the 2022 IWAS Wheelchair Fencing World Cup. I think this is going to be very much a reflection of the final that they experienced there.
Oh, nice.
It is worth noting that Marta, by the way, this is her second successful title in the women's category A last year when she secured that in 2022.
Looks like there is some problems.
Oh, we always love technical difficulties. You got to roll with the punches, right? It's all part of the experience.
Yes.
It's what we live for.
Here to roll with it. You know, it is really fun right now. It's packed as far as people sitting, watching, cheering. I mean, the whole gamut. So it's pretty fun. I think I just already heard like 4 different languages. French for sure, and a few others. So it's been really great. 26 participating nations here, home nations. That's been really fun. Lauren, you were asking us what our favorite part was or is. What's your favorite part?
I think my favorite part this weekend was just realizing of a dream come true. For me, as a U.S. fencer, it has always been a dream of mine for the U.S. to host a domestic World Cup. The last time the U.S. held a domestic World Cup, it was 20 years ago in 2003. And I think just hosting a World Cup in the United States, it means a lot to not only the United States fencers, but also the whole world. We, as the United States, get to showcase what our home is to other countries and just be a great host to them.
Nice counterattack into a straight attack.
We're back to action.
You know, I'm watching these ladies here fence, and it almost looks like they're teasing each other. They're sort of giving the blade, giving the arm, giving the target, trying to get the other person to launch an attack, when then they can either make a parry post or a counterattack into it. You know, they just sort of like when, if you tease an animal, which nobody should do, saying.
I mean, unless you want to get hurt. But, I mean, I think the same could translate into fencing.
See, look, she's sort of giving the blade, daring her to take it, daring her to go. And they're both doing it. Who's going to bite? Oh, there we go.
Double touch. Both fencers are awarded a touch. This is Epee is the only weapon where double touches stand for both fencers.
So Epee, after every touch, they have to make sure that the skirt is covering what it's supposed to be covering.
Wearing the skirt as an Epee fencer always made me feel like a big princess, you know, the big hoop skirt.
Oh, nice counterattack. So Brianna set it up just right. She pushed. Marta launched her attack. Brianna shot right into it with a counterattack and closed her out. That was a really nice, well set up touch. Oh, there's just long reach from Marta. I think Marta seems to be a little bit bigger. You know, I'd love to have the stats on the reach of the fencers. Who's got the longer, you know, the longer wingspan? Not that I'm saying somebody needs to do some extra work and get that information. I'm just saying.
Double touch again. Brings up to 3-7. Again, Epee is the only weapon in wheelchair fencing where we're not going to be breaking at 8. The only time we'll take a break in Epee is when 3 minutes is over during a DE.
That was beautiful.
These two have fenced against each other several times. November of last year at the European Championships in Warsaw, they saw each other head to head, and Marta came out with the W in the end.
Oh, that's a nice attack. That's one of the last 3 attacks that that Brianna made. She was closed out. This time, Marta couldn't catch her blade. Oh, again, that long reach from Marta. Unless Brianna's pulling all the way back, you know, behind her chair over the back of her seat, she's going to keep getting hit.
Beautiful.
Oh, nice attack. I don't think Marta expected her to come so deep. And Brianna's automatically on defense.
Brianna's retreat is very impressive. She's able to lean almost back 90 degrees.
And she set up that touch perfectly and executed it perfectly. She drew out Marta in attack and then just launched her counterattack. This really is a cat and mouse game. Oh.
Marta was able to leave her point out just for Brianna to go ahead and run into her point.
Yeah, usually the ladies have been going forward, missing their attack, and they come back and they go on defense. This time she was smart and left it out there, and yeah, just like you said, let Brianna run right onto it. Oh, there's that reach again. So it looks like she's not just making a straight attack, she's sort of making a 3/4 attack to see how far Brianna's pulling back and then finishing that last quarter all the way to the torso. And that time she hit Brianna coming in right on the wrist. Nicely done. So I think fixing the skirt there is sort of comparable to retying your shoe in able-bodied fencing.
It is, it is.
Oh, again, she got caught coming in. I think Marta's found a new style that's working. Double touch. And Marta is one touch away from a gold medal bout. Up and double touch. She has her spot in the gold medal. That was really nicely done. Again, like I said, my favorite part is the changing of styles. The one person changes, the other person has to counter. That's the cat and mouse. That's the puzzle. Whenever somebody asks me, what's fencing? What's it like? Some people have a thing they think that's just hacking and slashing or poking and jabbing. I try to tell them fencing is somebody who likes. If you like puzzles, you like fencing. If you like to figure something out, it's like a Rubik's Cube or something like you figure out the puzzle, how to open the box. You know what I mean? That's the best way I can describe it. I think fencing is a great individual sport. Some people aren't team players. Some people
You're
don't.
speaking to the crowd right here. I remember my sisters, they both did softball growing up, and I just couldn't do team sports because I didn't like the chance of letting people down. So I know that.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And I knew going into the sport of fencing that it was all on me. How well I performed was about all my effort. The only person I could blame was myself. And so I definitely understand what you were saying, how like fencing is a sport for people that don't do team sports.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I, when I have a club, that's how I advertise it. Some people love team sports and they're good at it, and that's fantastic, but not everybody is that person. I played baseball as a kid, and I was either the best person on a bad team or a bad person on a really good team. Each scenario was not fun for me. When it came to fencing, if I lost, fine. I understand it. I learn from it. I try and train, get better, and go back in. And if I win, all the praise is on me.
Well, I will say, while fencing is not necessarily a team sport, what is a team is the pit crew of volunteers we have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I would also say the delegation that is with your team. I understand what you're saying. It's an individual sport, the sort of pressure of all that. I've never thought of it in that way. I thought about it, sort of they don't play well with others. And in retrospect, I think that's entirely wrong. So I take full credit for assuming something I didn't know. But I do see sort of the tactical and very strategic mental game that goes into this, and why those that are fantastic at fencing and also chess, or we have tons of doctors and engineers, because fencing is not for the faint of heart, especially wheelchair fencing. So I think it's entirely fascinating, and no one should have that kind of pressure on their shoulders at all times. We will take a short break momentarily to allow these two to set up both this final and the other final. In the meantime, be sure to get something to hydrate with, get some snacks. I don't know. Grab some popcorn because Michael's been quite entertaining all day. And we will join you for the finals.
Maybe I'll juggle.
Welcome back to the 2023 IWAS Wheelchair Fencing World Cup in Washington, D.C., all about the alliteration. We are here now for the men's final. This is number 1 versus number 2. These two athletes, by the way, have certainly seen each other before. Lauren, how do you expect this to play out? And you don't have to bet about it. I mean, we can make assumptions. Both are very, very talented.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This is number 1 and number 2 in the world competing against each other.
Well, no, I said number 1 and number 2 seeding as far as here at the 2023 IWAS World Cup.
Okay.
Both have been leaders on that ranking board for several years. Maxim, by the way, 2020 Tokyo walked away with the bronze in the team foil event, and in Rio, he also got 2 medals, the bronze in the men's foil B and bronze medal in the men's team foil. So it's been a very medal-y, a ton of accolades, a ton of medals for all of these finals, and I think these two are very, very competitive, especially against each other.
I think it's going to be a bout that's going to be fueled with emotion. There's going to be a lot of yelling and a lot of crowd participation as well. I think we're going to see a lot of cheering on for the Frenchman or the British man.
Well, these guys have been very busy this whole weekend. I believe on Saturday, Maxime took 2nd and Dimitri took 3rd in the B men's saber. And I think on Friday, Dimitri won the men's epee. So they are top fencers in all 3 weapons. We're going to see who's going to come out on top right now. Like I said, we're not going to bet.
Well, yeah, we're not. You're always like, I'm not a
betting.
I'm like, but if you had to, come on, like, who would you choose? It is really important for us to note that as this is the first World Cup and international sort of docket, as all of these athletes are trying to gain points to be part of Paris 2024. And it's wildly apparent both of these fencers have made multiple appearances at the Paralympics and eye on the prize for Paris 2024.
Yeah, they've both been, finalists this whole weekend. So
There are no strangers to semifinals, both of these athletes. No, finals. We're in the finals.
If I did have to bet, I would bet they're both going to Paris.
I mean, hey, that was a safe bet. I'll take it. I'll take it.
This is the second to last finals of the tournament for the individual tournament.
Individual, yeah. Team events begin tomorrow, and it's a little bit of a shorter day, though hectic, shorter day, and that will wrap up the 2023 IWAS Wheelchair Fencing World Cup.
All right. These athletes are testing their weapons. They're getting ready to fence. Let's see who will win gold.
You know, we've talked about this before. It is worth noting, if you are sort of queuing in for the first time, that the wheelchairs are actually secured into a frame. This is wildly important because while not all of these athletes use a wheelchair every single day, the wheelchair ends up being an extension of the equipment, basically leveling the playing piece, allowing, a sort of level. There's no advantage. There's no large advantage. And I think that's wildly important because if you're a kid at home right now in any corner of the world and you want to get involved, but you're like, hey, I'm not in a wheelchair every day. That's not how things work. And you, Lauren, specifically brought up, hey, that's not how things work for me on an everyday basis, but I got involved.
Yeah, and I was fencing able-bodied when I was 13 years old. And at that time, the Paralympic coach, Les Stawicki, he saw me fence. He noticed I walked with a limp. He noticed that one leg was stronger than the other and suspected that I was disabled. And he went up to my parents and go, your daughter's disabled, right? And they're like, yeah, like she has cerebral palsy. And then he informed my parents at that time that your daughter can fence in wheelchair fencing and possibly make it to the Paralympics. And boy, was Maestro correct.
I think that's pretty incredible and worth noting. And Michael, it's really cool. Your dad was an Paralympic legend as far as being involved with the Paralympics and wheelchair fencing, and then helped coach you for quite a bit too. How did that affect the way you were involved with wheelchair fencing?
He was never part of the Paralympic. He was always the Olympic and able-bodied coach. When he was coaching and fencing, there really wasn't Paralympic fencing, wheelchair fencing. But what I did get from him is how to give back to the sport. You know, he was coaching. He would ref sometimes. You know, he always had input on how the sport in the U.S. should progress. Whether people wanted to hear him or not is another story. But you know, that's how I got into. That's where my mindset came in to help out with the wheelchair fencing, is to give back. You know.
Definitely. And, you know, we were talking about the differences. There's obvious ones between wheelchair fencing and able body fencing, but we do have a fantastic graphic that David is going to throw up there for us that kind of outlines the different weapons, target areas, hits scored, you know, right of way if it exists within that realm. And here we're in the foil final, and it's really important to note that the skirt is on there for a reason. And when we talk about epee versus foil versus saber, there are differences. Like the skirt is one thing that's wildly different, the right of way and all the above. On the next graphic that we have, we talk about the way that the wheelchairs are fastened kind of into place, for lack of better terms, and that there's a link to the electronic scoring, fixing plates, clamps, and the athletes are actually strapped into their chairs. The length of the play area is super important. We touched upon this before, is set by the athlete with the shortest reach. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Lauren, and why that's important?
Oh, I guess we're going to quickly. I'll answer that maybe soon. It looks like the final is about to start.
I knew this was going to be rowdy. You can hear the French guys. It's fun. I love it.
And this is going to be a men's category B foil. And it's going to be the final against Maxime Vallet from France and Dimitri Kutcha from GB.
As we say, where I come from, Great Britain. Little hesitation from the right, attacks from the left. There's a parry post for the right. This looks like Vallet is trying to get back to his flicking action. He's trying to go around the arm and hit on the flank, and that time it didn't work. Try it again. Oh, it didn't work to the shoulder.
Foil is all about right away. Michael, do you mind giving a short recap what right away means?
So fencing is a combat sport. I'm going to try and be succinct while the touch is still going on, so I'm not rambling. Basically, if somebody has the right of way, if somebody starts an attack, they have the right to finish it, unless their opponent stops them by either blocking it with a parry or getting them to miss somehow, or maybe just getting them to stop, in which case the right of way switches to the opponent. So a couple of examples. If I come forward, start my attack, stop it, my opponent goes, then I continue. Since I stopped it, it touches against me because my opponent, by stopping, I give my opponent right of way. If my opponent parries it, he retains the right of way. If he makes me miss somehow, he gets the right of way, and I've got to go automatically back on defense and parry it myself, make them miss myself, or somehow get them to stop. So the score is 2-3 for Maxime, and we're getting our first video of this bout.
Dimitri, mind you, last in Tokyo, team bronze, 2 individual bronze medals, and a team silver. I mean, that's pretty stellar for a 25-year-old to be able to come out of the Paralympics with that kind of medal.
He's 25 now, so that means he was 23 back then. We can all do some basic math. Yeah.
It's tied up at 4-4.
He, by the way, is the first British wheelchair fencer to win a major individual title in foil, and that was Rome in 2017 with the World Championship.
Wow.
Huh.
Very impressive resume.
Oh, nice attack, and then remise. So it looks like Dimitri is a little bit more active than Maxime. Maxime's strategy seems to be relying on the flick a lot. He's checking his tip because he thinks he hit. There was no light. If I had to guess, I would say Dimitri may be rushing Maxime to a point where Maxime's not comfortable finishing when he's finishing. Oh, that was a nice touch. Very nice attack. You notice whoever controls the distance generally is going to get the touch. Unless the other person misses. 7-5 for Dimitri. We will have a break at 8. Oh, parry post for the right.
The accessories are now changing sides. Michael, do you mind giving a quick recap what an accessory does?
In wheelchair fencing, an accessor is watching a fencer to see if they rise up out of the seat. These fencers are so strong, and their momentum will carry them up and out of the seat, which will get them too close to their opponent to be, basically as cheating. They don't mean to do it, but sometimes with the excitement, their legs may be strong. Their core may be, pulling them towards the target. They don't mean to do it, but they're not allowed to rise up out of the seat. So as soon as the accessor is watching where the seat and the butt meet, if the accessor sees any daylight between there, they've got to raise their hand, and then the fencer will get a yellow card. And if there was a touch, it'll be annulled. So right now, these guys have been fencing all weekend. I would imagine their coaches are saying, I know you're tired. Suck it up for a few more touches. Give me your best. You can sleep later.
Some tough love.
We're here to win.
Again, this is the first World Cup that's going to count towards the qualification for Paris 2024. A very important point, and all these athletes want to start the qualification cycle on the right foot. On a very good note.
As I was saying before, these guys, everybody here in the finals and semifinals, if I had to guess, I would say that they are going to qualify for Paris. They're the best of the best. So what they're doing is they're trying to set themselves in the right position when they get there. Everybody wants to be number one going into Paris. That's the easiest path to get into the finals. So that's what they're trying to do. They're point hunting. And we go into another video replay. Again, it's still a close bout, 6-8. It's anybody's game. And again, I'm sure these guys have fenced each other repeatedly over the years. So they know each other very well. They've fenced them. They've watched them. Teammates have fenced them. They've watched video of them. So there's no surprises coming into this bout.
Valet, by the way, has really been instrumental in the expansion of wheelchair fencing in his home nation and also within his family. It's a family affair. We were talking about this before. He is married to Delphine, who placed 5th in fencing in London in 2012. They have an adorable little girl together, and he is a doctor, just to add that to the list. And so it's pretty incredible to see the way that his entire life is just really honed in and focused. He's talked about wanting to reach the highest levels worldwide, and that continuous focus is the reason why he relatively recently, started fencing saber also.
So it's a family affair, but does his dad have a movie about him?
That's a good point. I did watch that documentary, and I loved it.
And for those of you who don't know, we're talking about the company made a documentary about my father. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Stro, the Michael DeSaro story. Not me. He was much better than I was, so I can't take credit. But now, if you're interested, you can go see it. Anyway, back to what we're here for. The wheelchair fencers don't need to take anything away from them. They've closed the gap. Now it's a one-touch lead. Oh, but there's Maxime trying for that flick again, hitting off target.
No, if I was Maxime right now, I'd be just super excited for next year. I mean, Maxime being from France, that's where the next Paralympics are going to be at. He's going to definitely work hard this cycle to make sure that he's winning a medal there.
Yeah, there's got to be that extra level of pressure, right? It's in your home country. Everyone's looking at you. It's got to add another element to your mental game.
Oh, and there's Dimitri with his infamous remise, which is a second attack or an attack and sort of a fast trying to hit again. Right there. See, he's basically getting 2 shots for the price of 1.
That's a good way to put it.
Bar talk. And we're back to tie with a beautiful parry repost. Now, I know I said this before. It wouldn't surprise me if we end this one 14-14. Oh, there's a parry post. It looks like Maxime has that 8 parry repost down. He's sort of sweeping the line down in 8 parry. As I said before, we number our parry, so we know which line, which area we're talking about. So when he goes down to the right,
beautiful.
That's a sweep. That's an 8 parry, and he's doing it. He did it the last 3 or 4 times.
He's on fire.
So now Dimitri's got to come up with a way to counteract that. Oh, and there's the remise again. His first attack a little short. As he's going backwards, he throws in one more poke. Trying to press the button, just one more hit, and it went through. Oh, right there is again.
12-12, wow.
He's getting 2 shots as he goes in for an attack. One going in, one as he's going away. So he's breaking the distance so Maxime doesn't have the time to hit. Oh, parry post for the right.
I'm on the edge of my seat. This is such a great bout.
Oh. 14-12. Maxime's going to take a second, rethink his strategy, and figure out how to pull it back.
So quiet.
Deck's off target.
We hear a pin drop right now.
Ooh. That's it.
Congratulations to Dimitri
Referee
Kutcher.
called attack for the right. We're going to the video replay just to confirm everything.
Oh. My congratulations may have been too early.
Bum, bum, bum.
I believe the referee made the correct call, but you never know. We've got to have all the equipment on to accept the call, and it is attack for the right. There
And
you
it's
go.
official.
Beautiful bout.
That was a fun one to watch.
That was Dimitri won the gold medal.
You know, Dimitri broke through the international stage in 2014, and that was in Hungary. So relatively new if you think about a lot of the fencers that started fencing when they were 9 or so, and it's very impressive. Both of these fencers have seen each other multiple times.
And you know what, I'm sure they've probably seen each other in junior ranks as well. You know, you watch the tennis players who, you know, they get interviewed and they say, oh yes, we played each other in you know, junior Wimbledon when we were 17.
Yeah, he actually started his wheelchair career as a wheelchair basketball player, actually, and then had the introduction when he was in what we would call here like middle school, and from there fell in love with it. Was, you know, loved sort of all athletics, but it was like fencing was going to be his thing.
Again, he sounds like more of an individual sport player than a team sport player, which is what we're talking about.
It's really easy to fall in love with the sport of fencing. I think it really like keeps the mind engaged, but also the body engaged. It's a sport that you have to think about, and also there's just such a beauty to it. My coach used to say growing up, fencing is a game of style, grace, and a lovely face.
Oh, I like that. I've not heard that one. That's a goodie.
I've heard people say that it's almost like ballet. I don't know about that.
I could see that, though.
I've seen a lot of fencing that is absolutely nothing like ballet. But I understand what they're talking about, the long lines, the flowing actions. I could see that.
There's also a degree of finesse depending on what weapon. I've noticed it. I interviewed a vet athlete actually in Croatia for Team USA, and he told me that he used to be a ballet dancer for the New York City Ballet, and just to add to the interview, started showing me all of his moves. And I could kind of see the crossover there. I did. I was like, all right, I can respect it. So there is sort of a degree of grace mixed with tenacity.
Especially with the vets. I think it's higher tenacity, a little lower grace. And maybe not everybody. So looks like the Polish fencer is getting last-minute words of advice, the last drink of water.
And Marta, mind you, has been fencing since she was 9. She's no stranger to the final piece, the final strip. She's been a member of the Polish national team for 13 years now. She is a Paralympic champion, 4th place from London and Rio, and a 2-time European and multiple medals from World Championships.
I'd love to see a statistic on who was able-bodied and then, you know, maybe had an accident or some you know, something else happened, and now they're continuing on wheelchair. I mean, I know that's happened. I know a bunch of the wheelchair fencers who that's happened with. There's actually one person, a Hungarian saber fencer, who actually won able-bodied world championships.
He actually won Olympic gold and then Paralympic gold.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, that's incredible. I like that.
Blanking on his name.
Just want to make sure everyone knows, like, he's a big deal.
Yes.
Just want to, you know, set the record straight regardless. That to me is very incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember his name. I remember fencing him when I was a kid, and he's older than I was, but and he whooped me pretty bad. So they're waiting on the technology to get all set up, and
they're waiting for the next bout is going to be our last finals for individual tournament. We saved the best for last, you know, women's category A, Epee, the weapon in category I fenced in. It's not coincidence. They did it all for me, everyone.
I love it.
They'll be handing out the Luca trophy at the end.
Possibly.
I feel like there's some branding coming in after this. It is really fun to see all of the fans here too. Like, everyone is kind of here. It's quiet.
Well, you know, I've been to tournaments where, you know, the final bout and the only people who are in the room are the teammates of the fencers.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case here. We've got we do have their teammates, but I'm looking at I see Thailand, I see USA, I see France, I see Italy.
Oh, Brazil over there.
I see France. I see your underpants. I see Germany. Everybody's still here.
USA, yeah, the whole crew. It's it's sort of like a family. I noticed. I love that.
I was talking to my sister the other day, and I was saying how I haven't been to a World Cup in years. 'Cause I'm retired, and I just felt like coming back home. I was able to reconnect with friends who I haven't seen in years. I was able to catch up with teammates as well, especially since the USA team is so far apart from each other.
That's true.
So it was a really great homecoming.
Yeah.
It's really funny for me, even as a able-bodied fencer. I've just been in the sport, whether it's wheelchair fencing or able-bodied, for a long time. I've known a lot of people. When I came in as a kid, there were some older people who were, you know, already in the top of their game, who retired as I got a little bit older, and but I see people coming back in here. They come in because they hear there's fencing here in town, so they just sort of wanted to come in and check it out. I mean, I've seen 5 or 6 people who've come up to me and said, "Hey, you remember me? Do you remember me?" I'm like, "Absolutely." You look older, but I remember you.
I feel like fencing, if I've learned anything from this week and the previous weekend, is that it's like once it's in your blood, it's in your blood. Like, you're not going to be able to shake it.
Oh, yes.
I love that.
So you're saying fencing is like crack?
I mean, I think the adrenaline, there's something to say about the adrenaline and the screaming, right? That's something, in the yelling, it being very much a release of that energy.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about it being an individual sport, and you were explaining, well, I didn't want that kind of pressure of letting down a team, then it got me thinking, well, no wonder they yell then after. You're like, no wonder, because it's all on you. It's like you against the world, and I would yell too.
My mom used to say, "Why are you yelling? We didn't teach you how to do that. That's impolite."
I feel like my coach did.
Yes.
So, Amanda, I'm challenging you, the next wheelchair tournament that you're at,
Yes.
suit up,
Yeah.
get the garb on, get in the chair, and give it a shot.
Oh, done. I mean, I don't even have to think about that one. Julio, you know, the national team coach, gave me a brief lesson while they were having some training at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Training Center. And there were a lot of things I noticed that I was doing wrong. He first told me that I was basically punching through, and that's what I thought you did. You know, I was like, so my bicep has nothing to do with this? He's like, nah. And it was like all of 20 minutes, but I took it all in like a sponge. So I would love to. Love to. Are you kidding me? That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's funny to see people's perception of the sport. You know, once from the time they haven't seen it, oh, you're fencing? You mean you do this? And they do the weird pokey little
They
action.
always go like,
Right,
this
yeah,
is something
it's really
I see.
strange. To the point where they actually watch it and say, oh, so you're doing this. Like, not that either. You know?
Yeah.
They think they think, especially with saber, they think it's hacking and slashing and cutting. It's like, okay, but if you did that, I would cut your wrist off before you got anywhere near me.
Yeah, I think a lot of that we were talking about it is awareness, right? And putting it out there. Hey, this is, wheelchair fencing. IWAS can connect you to a program, assist you with grassroots development depending on where you are. And I know we all agree with this, and I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face, but we're committed to being part of ensuring that every kid in every corner of the world has the opportunity to wheelchair fence. It's wildly important, right? We think about all of these stories, and time again we hear, hey, fencing's changed my life. It's kept me mentally fit, physically fit, but like it is the reason I have this, or I have the financial impact is huge because now I can take care of my family. I mean, it is an incredible opportunity, and I think a lot of that is awareness, putting it out there.
And I think everybody has to at least try it. You may not even like it. You may be more of a team fencer. Okay, fine. At least give it a shot, try it. I've heard people say, oh, it's so dangerous. It's like, it is. There's a chart out there that I wish we could put up there that shows how it's one of the safest sports in the world.
Absolutely. We are now getting started the women's Epee Category A final.
Oh, nice touch.
Great lunge by Marta. And in Epee, this is going to be different from the last final that we just covered. Epee, target area is going to be waist up.
Beautiful lunge by Hayo.
Target area is going to be waist up. That's going to be including the arm, glove, hand, and mask. But also in Epee, double touches count for both fencers, not like the other two weapons, foil and saber. One thing I've always loved about Epee is the amount of point control you need. You can see in these fencers that the point of each blade is never leaving their opponent.
This is a great battle. They're both just so physical. It looks like Ms. Kwan has a hand cramp. Looks like after every touch, she's sort of stretching out her hand and her wrist, or maybe she's just trying to prevent a hand cramp. So I'm interested to see if that's going to play a part in this bout. I guess that when you have the stakes are so high, you may have a habit of holding the handle too tight. Nice touch.
Beautiful.
She got so deep, so far out there in that lunge. Oh, wow. She was able to draw Marta out, take the blade, and then just ride it all the way into a deep, long attack. Beautiful touch. Wow, nice. Very nice.
That was a great hand touch. That point control really comes in handy when you're trying to make those hand touches.
So it looked like Marta's going more for the hand touches. Oh, and you see how Ms. Kwan is holding her hand and trying to stretch it out a little bit. So again, I don't know if she got hit there or if it's a cramp, but there's definitely something happening with her weapon hand. But it seems like Marta's going for more hand and arm touches, and Hayo's going a little bit deeper for the long attacks all the way to the body.
It makes sense that Marta is trying to hit the hand first, then go for the body, because the hand is going to be the thing that's closest to you. And if you miss on the hand, at least you can follow up with a hit to the arm or even the body.
Oh, nice. It also looks like Because Kwan's arms are longer, so she can get deeper into the body. Oh, nice again. That time was a time attack. Marta made an attack, but it was kind of a slow attack. So as Kwan thought it was done, she started her counterattack. That's when Marta hit in the wrist. All right, 6-4. There's another close bout. Oh, beautiful. Time it looked like Hayo stayed out there a little bit. She made her attack. She didn't go all the way back. She came up halfway, made a parry, reposted, and closed her out.
Double touch. Unlike the other weapons in the Epee, double touch is a word to both fencers.
Wow. This bout just has a lot of action. They're both making attacks. They're both on defense. They're both trying to, just power in. Double touch. Score is tied. Now it's going to be tied at 8-8. And again, we don't break at 8 in Epee. We'll wait till the time runs out. Oh, another remise to the wrist. She's got that wrist and forearm area zoned in.
She's very accurate.
Oh, double touch. It's really sad to know that one of these women has to lose this bout. They're both working so hard. They're both so skilled, so powerful. But at the end of the day, there can only be one winner.
Again, with that arm touch, Marta is on fire.
Oh, again. She's just letting Hayo commit and picking her off as she comes in. One touch left for Marta for the gold medal. And there it is, double touch for a victory and a gold medal for Poland.
The last individual medal of this tournament will go to Poland. And what a great bout to end the individual tournament on.
That's the way you want to see this this individual weekend end. That was fantastic. It was a really good bout, exciting bout, strong bout, two very physical athletes. That was super.
Frequent flyers too to the final piece, so it was fun seeing Marta come out with the W in the final bout, because frankly there have been some upsets in recent years on the international and world stage, and she's come up a little bit short. And I imagine when you've been fencing since you were 9 years old, that's a little bit of a pill, like hard pill to swallow. So this has been really fun this evening. It is especially exciting to see all the different countries here celebrating everyone. We are going to take a break tonight, and by break I mean we're gonna be done with the stream.
Go to sleep.
We're gonna go to sleep. We will be back on tomorrow. We are losing these two. They're going to be exiting tomorrow, traveling back home to be with their families. Thank you for joining us, by the way. It's been an incredible honor.
Thanks for having us. This has just been fantastic.
It's been awesome. It's a pleasure. Both of you have incredible pedigree in this sport, and to hear your perspective, I just feel like we're really honored by it. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.